Good evening, this is News.PH, but it's not politics as usual. I'm Pio Ontiveros. Our guests tonight are Colonel Dencio Acop and Captain Eric Peña. They're both former troopers of the Special Action Force. Captain Peña went to the PMA, Philippine Military Academy, graduated in 1986, and he left the service in 1997. Colonel Acop went to West Point and is therefore an honorary member. Tama po ba yun, sir? Honorary member of the PMA class of 1983. Colonel Acop left the service in 2006. Good evening, good evening to you. Thank you very much for being here. Sirs, can we begin with this? Now, tell us, what is your SAF story? What is your SAF experience? How did you get into SAF? What was it like? Colonel Acop?
For me, it was my first assignment when I graduated in '83. I came home for my return service of at least 8 years, and I saw on my appointment orders that there was a marginal note by then PC Chief Fidel Ramos saying, you know, to be assigned and trained with PC SAF, and that a lot of us young graduates were being assigned. And I was probably fortunate that
FDR knew you already at that time?
I think he was automatically assigning new fresh graduates to PC SAF, which was just created that year. So we were pioneers of the SAF.
Okay.
And so, swerte ko yun, umalas ko, pero
Swerte mo yun.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it was my first assignment. So pagpunta ko sa headquarters namin sa Cap Castaneda, I immediately became part of the Ranger course, which is the basic requirement, and then tuloy-tuloy na yan. Series of, because sa SAF, you undergo a series of trainings. Basic sa amin yung Ranger noon, and then you go into airborne and other specialization courses. I got myself assigned with the 1st Special Action Company, and then we went into mainly counterinsurgency operations.
Yeah. So, wait, sandali Ranger training.
Yeah.
Army yun
Right.
That's the elite force before of the Army.
It's not just a term for the Army. It's like a universal term for, but mainly the Army. Pero nung time kasi na yun, Pia, medyo unique tayo eh. We had two ground branches of service. We had the Philippine Army and the Philippine Constabulary back then.
Yes, PCINP.
Yeah,
Integrated National Police.
Yeah, And when I graduated, I was advised na I can choose between either the Army or the PC. And so I chose the PC.
And then dun sa PC, wala na kayong choice. Inassign na kayo sa SAF.
Yeah, well, sundalo tayo, so wherever they assign us, we would go.
How long were you in the SAF, sir?
I was with the SAF for 6 years, from '83 to '89.
Ang haba nun.
Yeah.
Is that the usual length of time that an officer spends in an assignment?
Hindi naman. Normally, it's about 3 to 4 years, and then you move on. In my case, medyo mahaba ng konti.
Bakit nga?
Kayo
favorite ni FDR?
I guess I like the unit so much. You know? But I liked it as SAF. It still is a very professional unit. So I was a company commander of 4 companies with PC SAF. First the headquarters company, and then the 4th SAC, and then the 3rd SAC, and then so tatlo lang pala. But I was part of the 1st SAC when I was a junior officer.
Okay, and I'm sorry, Colonel Peña, Captain
Well,
Peña.
my story is different, no, Pia. I graduated in '86. During that time, we select our branch of service to draw lots.
Yes,
So,
and you're the first batch under President Aquino.
Right. So we were supposed to graduate February of '86, but because of the EDSA revolution, it was postponed to another month, to March. So actually, we were already practicing how to get our diplomas by saluting a sitting president, actually on a wheelchair, President Marcos.
Okay.
Immediately after the revolution, we had to rehearse again and change how we salute, this time on a standing president.
Yeah, and a woman president,
Right,
who tells
first
you,
woman
welcome home,
president.
my soldiers.
Right.
Yeah.
So I graduated in '86 as a member of the PC, Constabulary. And Our batch for...
Sir, by the way, you really wanted to be with the PC, right?
No, actually, I wanted to be in the Air Force.
Ah, okay.
And the first draw lots that we did, I actually got the Army.
Ah,
And then there was a change in quota for different services. So there was another draw lots for those who got the Army. Because a lot of the cadets during that time would like to go into PC, Air Force, Navy, and usually the last one is the Army.
Army. Oh, who wants to go to the Army?
Right. So
Okay.
they gave more chances for the Army cadets to pick again.
Yeah.
And this time I was able to get PC.
Oo.
So after graduation, we trained with the Army Scout Rangers in Tanay, Rizal. And that's actually a mandatory requirement for all the Army and PC officers.
How long is the Ranger training? 1 month, 3 months?
What we took is actually the Ranger Orientation course. So it's shorter, I think it's just a month. But you get all the same training for...
And you come out of it alive, no? I mean, because you're both alive.
Right, but that's just a training. But
You have to what,
You
sir?
have to.
You have to.
You have to come out alive.
Yeah.
right. But for those kinds of trainings, for special trainings, like the Scout Ranger and trainings in the SAF, actually, they have actually a quota for casualties. So there are expected casualties in those types of trainings.
Sir, define casualties kasi baka mag-isip yung
Right,
mga...
casualties, actually, you can die in training, you can get injured, and you can also get mentally incapacitated by virtue of, because of the stress. So there's also a psychological effect sometimes, and that's part of the training.
Meron po ba kayong casualties when you took that Ranger training, either of you? Were there in your batch?
In my batch, yes.
Yes.
One was accidentally shot
Oh my God.
in the armpit.
Okay.
And the other one, actually, parang nagkaroon ng psychological problem.
And Colonel Acop, in your batch, meron din. May casualties.
Not one of us, but yung mga naka-enkwentro namin. Pero in other batches that I came to know about, meron.
Meron
Nagkaroon sila
talaga.
ng mga ano. Because, for example, part of the Ranger training, kasama dun yung yung test mission. And so
Test mission,
you really
okay.
have to be deployed and go
Yes.
against an actual enemy. So,
Okay. Test mission. Of course, test sounds innocent, but because it is a mission, it's like a live fire.
yeah, it's a
It's a real
live
mission.
operation. Yeah, kaya lang ang gagamitin yung mga nag-undergo ng training, for example. So you go against a real enemy, you're expected to accomplish the mission.
Yeah.
Like any ordinary mission.
Yes. Sir, okay. So, tapos na? Ranger training. Airborne. Airborne din kayo, di ba?
Right. So after the Ranger training, we volunteered to join the SAF. Kasi during our time, it's a volunteer na eh. Hindi ka pwedeng just to be assigned to
Okay.
to
Why
the
did you want
SAF.
to join the SAF?
Well, yun nga, the first question we were asked when we joined SAF, actually that's during the reception, when my classmates, I think we were 10 then, who joined the SAF. in
10
our
from
batch.
class 86.
Right. We were asked, why did you join SAF? And we were given bottles of beer and then asked that question. And what I mentioned is that I joined PC SAF because this is where the action is. So actually it's fulfilling some of our dreams, childhood dreams,
Okay.
that someday we will do something for the country. And
Gung-ho
I
eh,
felt,
gung-ho.
Gang-ho, oo.
I
Siyempre,
felt-
bagong graduate pa kayo, di
right,
ba?
we're full of idealism.
Yeah, you think you can do everything.
Right,
Oh,
right.
okay.
Parang walang kamatayan. And, well, yun. So, I was assigned with the second SAC. Second SAC actually was the counterinsurgency unit of PCSAF. We also have first SAC, which is the anti-terrorist unit. And the third SAC, which is a VIP protection or VIP security unit.
Okay. How many years did you spend with SAF, sir?
I stayed there for 5 years,
5
from
years?
86 to
Ang tagal.
91.
Oh, ang tagal talaga. Parang you developed some sort of a loyalty. Most officers stay that long, right?
It's a good unit. And
Right.
parang it's an extension of the kind of camaraderie that you develop in the academy. So very professional. So
Yeah.
I think it's really, really a good unit to start with, especially if you're a new officer You know, hindi naman nawawala yung action. It's alternating of operation and training and all of that.
Yeah. In one sentence, can you describe what your test missions were like? One sentence lang.
You mean our first encounter?
Yes.
One sentence. Okay, so actually it was difficult.
Difficult.
But exciting. Because most of the time you spend patrolling for several days.
Have you ever been injured?
No,
while in SAF?
luckily,
Were you ever
no.
injured, sir?
No,
In
not with
SAF?
SAF.
No, not with SAF.
Not with SAF.
Oh, so you transfer to another unit, then you get injured.
Yeah.
Ganun ba yun?
Yeah, a lot of apprehension before you go into a dangerous operation. So there's always that rush of adrenaline.
Right.
Okay.
So
Do you, your years in SAF, before we go to a break, no, your years in SAF, are those the ones that you look back at with, with
with lots of memories.
yes.
Yeah,
Right.
I would say it's a very good foundation for officers, to get that special training, discipline, all the right foundations in order to move on to other assignments, especially of greater responsibility onwards.
It's just surprising that like you, sir, no, Captain Peña, 5 years and then 6 years. Normally, mga assignment ngayon, 2 years, 3 years maximum, no? People spend a longer time there. Anyway, when we come back, we're going to talk about the Mamasapano encounter. Of course, you were not involved, but as former SAF troopers, we want to hear what you think and feel about it. We'll take a short break. Please stay with us. News.PH will be right back.
Ano ba itong overkill na to na ginawa niyo sa mga tao ko? Ako, hindi ako nakatulog kagabi nung nalaman ko yung medical legal report. Si Inspector Tyros, si Inspector Pabalina did not suffer any lethal shots. Nagtinamaan sila sa paa lang. Ganon din yung PNC yung isa. Paanong namatayan? Yung isa, binaril nyo sa ulo Buhay na buhay pa yung tao Yung isa, hinubaran nyo ng bulletproof niya Binaril nyo sa katawan niya Yung isa, 9mm sa ulo niya. Dalawang fatal shots. Hindi po pwede nag-suicide yung tao dahil in the face of so many enemies, kasi 9mm, close range yun. Short firearm yun. Nakita na Ito lang po ang gusto kong tanong Nakita nyo na, SAF yan Kahit anong violation pa yan, kahit na po sinabi nating walang coordination, etc. Kahit na sabihin pa ho natin sino una nagpaputok. Kausap yan sa usaping pangkatahimikan, peace talks. Bakit nyo pininis yung mga tao? 44 yan Tatatlo pa lang ho yung sinasabi ko 20 others were all with headshots. Hindi pa ho kami tapos dun sa pagtatanong ko sa medical legal namin. You know, Your Honors, wala. Ito pong mga taong ito, simpleng mga tao lang ito Kinuha yung isang kriminal. Legal na operasyon. Tatanungin pa ba natin kung legal pa po ba yan? Terorista yan kriminal yan Nagpapasabit, dami ng pinatay niyan Tapos you will blame coordination, bakit to justify the killing of my people, after fully knowing them, that they are from SAF, they are from government. Mind you, we're all for peace. Walang ibang magsasalita dito para sa mga tao kundi ako. Wala pong ibang inaasahan itong namatay nitong 44 kundi po tayong lahat. Bigyan naman natin ng hustisya. At magpakatotoo sana tayo rito. Hindi ho po pwedeng laging ganito. I seek answers for my people. So that when I die and when my time comes, that I have to face them, at least I can say something. It is always sweet to die for this country. Itong mga taong ito will always be there in your front and say, mission accomplished po. Sana nga ho, sinasabi ko, kasama na ako dun eh. Personal eh. So that I can lie down before you and tell you, salute, mission accomplished. Pero po, inuulit po namin, kami sa Philippine National Police, we are all for peace. Sagutin nyo lang po ako so that when we face each other all in heaven, I can tell them what happened. My men, I tell you, buhay na buhayan. Hindi nyo man lang pinauwi. Kasama ng kanyang mga anak. Dapat fair play lang ho lahat. That's what I want. That's what I request. Fairness and justice for my men. Maraming salamat po.
That was General Leonardo Espina, OIC of the Philippine National Police. Welcome back to News.PH. I'm Pio Ontiveros. Still with us, Colonel Dencio Acop and Captain Eric Peña. Captain Peña and Colonel Acop, can you tell us a few stories about SAF? What was the SAF experience like?
Go ahead, Eric.
Probably I'll tell a story that's medyo related to what's happening in Mamasapano hearings. So we heard a lot about GC, grid coordinates. One of my experience basically, which made me realize the importance of having a precise grid coordinates in the area where you're operating in. When we were assigned in Negros Oriental, we are two companies basically patrolling on a valley. So it's basically a very high, two high mountains. Below is dry riverbed, where we suspect the enemy encampment is, NPAs. So during our patrolling, we're patrolling one side of the mountain, and another platoon is patrolling the other side. So we got a radio call from one of the team leaders of the other team. And he was asking us, sir, is this you in this grid coordinates? So he mentioned the grid coordinates. So we look at the map and then replied back, no, it's not us. So they were saying, we saw a group of armed men. So after a few minutes, we heard an explosion around just probably 20 to 30 meters from us.
20 to 30 meters?
Right.
Oh my
It was
God.
an explosion coming from the mortar
Okay.
of the other troop. So we realized the armed men that they were describing are actually us. So they were actually looking at us. But we're so far apart that they can't see the uniforms. They just see the silhouette probably. And they fired upon us. And that's when we realized that probably we made a mistake in reading the map and looking at the grid coordinates. So basically that has become a huge lesson for us in terms of being precise in providing your location because they're just like what happened in Mamasapano. The army requested for
And
the
this
grid
is
coordinates.
late 80s. So when you say maps, talagang actual na mapa. And there's no technology
Right.
involved.
There's no GPS.
No
that
GPS.
They've used right now.
Okay.
We only use the maps and the compass. Basically, when you look at the reference points, the reference points are, of course, there are no buildings there. So the reference points are the mountain peaks. So you have to determine your location based on the mountain peaks as your reference point.
Wow. Wow. I wouldn't want to be SAF. Okay, Colonel Acop.
Yeah, well, if I can just add, since Eric discussed a lot of the things that we did at SAF, especially in relation to what's happening, no? Yeah, I can only say na the way SAF operate. Well, I remember back then, we'd really spend weeks or even months on end preparing for an operation, and sometimes we'd be locked inside camp. No one is allowed to go out, to go home.
Yeah. Why? Because baka magkaroon ng leak?
Baka
or...
mag-leak yung
Oo,
information,
okay,
you know.
oo.
So, and luckily back then we didn't have any cell phones anyway, so
Yeah,
okay lang yun. So, our families would really not hear from us for quite a while. Basta alam lang nila na we're busy, and then while our intelligence people, you know, do all the information gathering, coordination with the areas of operation that we are going to, and then pag hinug na, then that's the time that you know, we are deployed, and by then nakahanda na rin kami kasi wala kaming ginawa kundi mag-prepare, get all our gear, you know, ready and all of that, our supplies. Then we'd go in normally dahil we were a special unit. We did ranger operation, so we would move at night and then patrol base during the day.
Okay. Patrol
So,
base meaning?
That's the time we set up our tent and rest
Sleep.
and keep out of sight. Ayaw namin na makita kami ng kahit sino, not even a boy or a girl playing out there, you know.
Yes,
Naniniwala
because
kami
they
sa
could
pasabilis,
easily...
you know.
Yes, pasabilis. Tama. And sir, define pasabilis for those watching.
Well, pag makita ka ng any member of the community, they'd pass on the information to...
Yeah. They become informants.
They become informants to your opposition. So, pagka nangyari yon, alam na namin, naku, wala na, sunog na. So, sometimes you would see na it's very difficult to encounter the enemy because they have been alerted already and they go into hiding. You know, alam mo naman yung kalaban natin kung minsan magaling sila. They're farmers during the day and rebels at night.
Okay. Or baliktad din.
Or when you're not around.
Yeah.
So we did that, and there are many stories about, for example, nag-operate kami sa, I remember, sa Banawe, no?
Banawe, okay.
I remember falling down several times dun sa rice terraces.
Rice terraces. Kaya pala nasira,
madilim
sir.
Madilim,
Kaya
may
pala
naglalakad ka
nasira,
sa...
marami na kayo, oh. Okay.
So, no, or there was a soldier of ours who fell. Umakit kami ng bundok na ganyan. Kasi hindi namin nilalakaran yung mga may trails.
Right.
Of course.
So, nalaglag ngayon yung isang sundalo sa taas. Mabuti na naglanding siya doon sa likod ng kasamahan namin na nasa baba. So, it broke his fall. At least hindi siya nasaktan. Mga things like that, no? Sometimes you'd be dropped by a helicopter and pumatak ka sa tubig. Akala mo hanggang dito lang, yung pala lampas sa things like that. And a lot of these things happen during operations. But somehow you recover, no? And then we also found out na siguro if you operate properly against the enemy, sometimes it's very hard to encounter them. Minsan magne-negative yung operation namin, and so we'd leave the area.
Yeah, yes.
And then,
Totoo yun,
one
sir,
day or 2
minsan
days after that, na-encuentro ngayon yung local command kasi, you know, they were operating siguro very visibly and they were ambushed. Madalas yung ganun mangyari.
Okay. Nung SAF po kayo, Sir Eric and Sir Dencio, every time you go out, are you prepared to die? Were you prepared to die?
Well,
Captain.
definitely, yeah. So when we're patrolling, actually, the first thing you have to keep in mind is always where to duck in case there's an ambush. So you have to be aware where you're walking on, and then look at the surroundings and be prepared to duck and then return fire just in case.
Of course, like you said, you were never injured, at least while you were in SAF.
Right,
But
right.
was there a point in time that you thought, minsan nangyayari, di ba? Akala nyo mamamatay na kayo. May ganon.
Well, yeah,
Natural, ano?
right. During our encounters, like for example, in Bulacan, so we were actually going towards a particular houses where they mentioned there are several NPAs. So it's also a rice field. So it's very difficult to approach because there's no cover.
Yeah.
So you just have to duck on the mounds on the rice field, and then you can feel...
Yung anong tawag doon? Yung in-between, ano?
Right.
I can't remember.
Yung medyo mud na...
Oo.
So yun na yung cover mo. And then you can feel yung mga soil going to your faces whenever bullets are hitting beside you.
Colonel Ako.
It's a very recurrent and normal part of a soldier's life. I remember nung every time na, lalo-lalo pag alam ko na palapit na kami sa sa area of operation, no? You're probably being brought there by a truck or a jeep or whatever. Pag malapit na, alam mo na, tatalon na kayo, so you can feel your heart really racing, no? You're very apprehensive. Ang feeling mo, para bang, so as you hit the ground, you'll get fired upon right away, no? So, and that feeling never goes away. Each time you expect to be, to encounter the enemy. There's also one thing na hindi ko makalimutan even during the EDSA revolution inside Camp Crame. Nung akala namin susugurin kami ng mga Marines, no? Which were just across Santolan and EDSA. Akala talaga namin matutuloy. So by that we formed a small perimeter around, kasi nung una sinecure namin yung Camp Crame kasi si Ramos lang yun nandun. Nobody was there. And so, I guess, if they attacked that time, siguro nakuha agad yun. But, luckily, hindi. So, we moved back in. Naging Alamo yung PC headquarters. And so, kami yung mga naganood. We were expecting na kung sakaling they penetrate through the gates, then, our orders were to stand fast, whatever happens. Kung basawan kung papatayin sila Ramos doon, kasama na kaming lahat doon. Sama-sama na kami. Parang ganun. So, luckily, it didn't happen that way.
Sama-sama na kayo. All right.
Yeah.
There was this dramatic 6-minute and 10-second video that circulated on social media and found its way into the mainstream. It is a video of the firefight that erupted between Police Special Action Force commandos and rebel groups or rebel elements when the commandos were attempting to arrest Marwan, who was a wanted international terrorist responsible for, among others, the Bali bombing in 2002. Let's watch this.
It begins with a man in a SAF uniform lying on the ground, his helpless eyes looking at the sky, his legs twitching. If he was in the throes of death, someone would make sure he would be out of his misery. On the 10th second, the man holding the cell phone and taking this video shoots the SAF commando in the jaw. The commando stops moving, his eyes still open, although unseeing. He is helpless no more. Death had come for him. The cell phone camera tilts upward. The man holding it seems used to this scenario. He moves on. The video shows the sun shining down on this open field. What would have been a beautiful day was the day so many young men would prove that they knew how to die in the battlefield with their boots on. On the 52nd second, he passes by a body on the ground, then a passing shot of his feet, clad only in slippers, and then he bends down beside a body. It is unclear exactly what he's doing because the recording is shaky, but you can hear the sounds of equipment or perhaps even a firearm being taken from the man lying dead on the ground. Then the camera zooms out and it becomes clear that the man on the ground has a helmet on, and the man taking the video and at least one other comrade of his are helping themselves to some of the belongings of the SAF commando. They move on, walking through the field, and come across another man on the ground. The man with the cell phone appears to bend down because the camera gets near to the ground again. There is a momentary portion where you can see the commando on the ground and his helmet. The camera also records the man's comrades in a huddle, the guns still firing, the rebels removing what they can from two commandos. And then we get a glimpse of what they got, the vest of one of the commandos. Seconds later, the man holding the cell phone and a nearby comrade let out a yell.
Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar!
Then this videographer starts to run, and in one fleeting moment, we catch the only time his image appears in the video, his shadow, and that of the long arm he is carrying. The firefight gets more intense, non-stop shooting. The man with the cell phone camera drops to the ground, then we catch a glimpse of a vest. We can hear the Velcro coming off, as if he's checking what's inside. Out comes a magazine. He and his comrade are talking. They're breathless. War, after all, makes you want to survive at all costs. And then it stares you in the face, even for a split second, a patch of one of the SAF commandos. They continue rummaging through the vest's pockets, and then when a bullet seems to have whizzed past them, the camera tilts upward, and you can see the field again. Our videographer seems to be struggling with something, and then he begins to run. He catches up with and falls behind one other fighter, who walks with the air of one who knows the lay of this bloodied land. They pass by a few other rebels, huddled over and standing near bodies on the ground, one of them with his helmet on. The man with the cell phone keeps walking and comes across more bodies as if he is recording for posterity. The irony of technology, meant to make us better human beings, but also used to record war that debases all of humankind. The camera moves on and records more of government weaponry on the ground, which the man behind the camera chooses to take along, as if it were a reward or one of the spoils of war. 2 shots are fired close by. He stops and then walks on. His slippers that may have seen many battles are what the camera records, and this prize catch slung on his shoulder, a reminder that there is as yet a promise unfulfilled to return what belongs to the government. But it is evident that his gait, his pace is more relaxed. The firefight appears to be winding down by now. The camera lets us have a glimpse of the river, beside which so many died. The man with the cell phone camera drops to the ground and fires 4 times. There is more shouting, and the camera seems to turn upside down. And the sky that the now dead commando at the start of this video is still staring at is blue and beautiful, with clouds so white you wouldn't think people under it were killing each other. The last 10 seconds of the video shows that the gun battle is not yet over, like so many other battles that make up this never-ending war. War that claims the lives of those who wear slippers and of those who wear and die with their boots on.
Your thoughts and your feelings about this, seeing what happened to your fellow SAF troopers, Captain Peña?
Well, actually, this raises a lot of questions, especially on the sincerity of the MILF in achieving genuine peace. You can see from their actions. If you really want peace, then you wouldn't want to really start a war. So, in the first place, the policemen are just serving a warrant of arrest. They're performing a legal order. And there's a peace process. But what happened is that after getting the target, the MLF together with the BIFF batted together, and you saw what happened. So I believe there are some sincere members of the MLF who really want to have peace. But probably these are the guys that faces our government peace panel. But on the other side, the people who faces our troops are actually far different from what faces the negotiating table.
Thank you, sir. And Colonel Ako?
Yeah, there's some items that I would like to just bring out, and some summary points, and a lot of it from my thoughts on a lot of the things that have happened over the past few days or weeks. I just like, one is this thing about going out to accomplish an operation. There are actually three things that are involved. Number one, well, it is important that the operator or whoever goes out and conducts an operation wants to accomplish the mission. That's number one. But there are two other concerns that are equally important. Number two, taking care of the welfare of your men while doing it. Now, and number three, the efficient utilization of your scarce resources. And that is probably where, fundamentals of leadership like unity of command and using the chain of command really come in. The commander-in-chief has the powers and responsibility that and accountability as well that no one has. No one, as they say, instructions and orders flow down, and then responsibility and accountability flow upwards. And so we're seeing various levels of responsibility here and accountability as well, through the chain of command. You have the level of the commander-in-chief, you have the level of the PNP, the AFP, although there's the DND and the DILG, but they're mere alter egos of the president. Actually, the ones in the chain of command are the chief PNP and the chief of staff of the armed forces. And of course, there's the level of the tactical commander, which is Director Napeñas. The wisdom behind the chain of command is that by automatically, for example, involving the chief of staff of the armed forces and the chief PNP from the outset, you automatically involve, you bring in the resources that are available. And then the unifying factor above them is, of course, the commander-in-chief. Okay? And we will see that, of course, when you go into an operation, there's an assumption that there's a possibility of winning, accomplishing without any casualty. But there's also the possibility that you lose some men. And when that happens, what are you going to do? What's plan B? All right? So, and as we have seen, the issue of reinforcement comes in. Definitely, there was no reinforcement. Well, as far as we can see. Reinforcement probably came in too late, but sometimes the thing that comes to my mind is that there was that point, for example, at 5 a.m., wherein all our hopes of accomplishing a mission without casualty just went down the drain. All of a sudden, our men are there, being killed one by one right before our eyes. So what do we do now? Who knows about it? Definitely, there's General Napeñas, there's General Purisima, but it's common knowledge now that there's also the president monitoring even. And for as long as the president is in the know, then to my mind, he is the only one in the chain of command who has the power under him, legal and moral power to bring in reinforcement, whether these are coming from, well, especially the armed forces. Because you can call in air support, for instance, to pinpoint where the action is. Send intelligence from air to ground. You can order so that the resources of the 6th Infantry Division can become available. For instance, raining in mortar and artillery indirect fire support even before the infantry goes back in order to support the 55th. The rest of the 392 troopers, I think they were already, they cannot do anything. They were just pinned down along the highway because it was already daylight. They're seen by the enemy. They cannot go in without suffering the fate of the 55th. They needed the armor, to precede them before they can go in. But of course, that didn't happen. As far as the BBL, I think the BBL was dead in the water as soon as those troops started killing government troops and knowing that they are government troops at 0600. So what ceasefire or peace negotiations are we talking about? When that happened, everything changed. It's like a living document. It's like this thing is dynamic, and so you cannot like the Pope said, reality is stronger than ideas. So nandun na tayo eh. So sa aking palagay lang naman, my humble opinion is that if I were probably the commander-in-chief, I'd just order the armed forces. Andyan na yan eh. Sa amin sa military or police, we have an unwritten rule na kung pinapatay na yung mga katabi mo, you are duty-bound to support them. Kasi buhay ng pinag-uusapan dito ay what higher value is there if not to sustain life. And sa amin, na mga nagbubuwis ng buhay, pag hindi mo ginawa yon, wala na. Nothing else is worth dying and fighting for. Ganun ang dating sa amin eh. That's something that siguro the people need to understand. Also, I think caution needs to be exercised now with the BBL. I think it must be seen in the light of the global threats that are happening around us now. Okay. Like in Jordan. We're talking now of enemy going into enclaves and probably from there spread out like a disease. Dati conventionally we thought na the Philippines is an archipelago and therefore it is surrounded by bodies of water and therefore it is immune from attack. Pero ngayon, if we have a homegrown, hindi natin, well, sabi nga nila, revolutionary ano pa rin yung ano. So in short, kalaban pa rin sila eh.
Okay.
They're not able to. So if that is so, then siguro let's see it in that light. Dahan-dahan muna tayo. Let's not push the BBL just for the sake of pushing it. Diba?
Okay. All right.
And then,
Sir, very quickly na.
yun lang.
Or
And
you know
then,
what? I'll invite you back.
Yeah, and finally, there's also the issue of double informants, sincerity, justice, peace, security and development, democracy. Pero teka muna, di ba? Parang we talk of peace.
At what
justice.
price peace?
What kind of justice or peace are we talking about if we cannot give justice and peace to our own people first, even before we we want to embrace all, but what about justice and peace right here in our own family?
All right. Thank you very much for being here. Colonel Dencio Acop, thank you, sir. And Captain Eric Peña, thank you, sir. We'll take a short break. Please stay with us. News.PH will be right back. Welcome back to News.PH. I'm Pio Ontiveros. We have with us here former Muntinlupa Congressman and former Customs Commissioner Rufy Biazon. Rufy, you've been very vocal on social media ever since day one, meaning January 25, when we first found out about this.
Well,
Your
I
thoughts?
was really distressed when I first found out about the news of 44 of our policemen basically massacred. When I was in Congress, I focused on defense and security issues. So these topics are really close to my heart. And of course, having grown up as a military brat.
Yeah. Oo. Bakit sino ba yung tatay mo?
Some general.
Pong
named
Biazon,
Pong
some
Biazon.
general, yeah, who just happened to be chief of staff.
Yeah, well, my first concern was how did we plan for this, which ended up in the death of 44. It's a big number. And from what I know, when military operations and even police operations are planned and conducted, you have a backup of a backup plan. So how did it get to this point where 44 of our policemen die in a cornfield? That's why I was closely monitoring what was going on and the proceedings that followed in finding out what the truth was. One glaring thing that really came out to my observation was the apparent lack of an exit plan.
Yeah.
You know, it's been said that the target was worth dying for 44 men. But the way I see it, it would have been really worth dying for if we gave them a chance to come out alive.
Okay.
Parang nasayang yung 44 na
Yeah.
pinapunta natin doon nang hindi natin nasiguro na sila'y
Okay.
makakalabas
Yeah.
ng buhay.
There's one big question, no? Did the military really not send in that reinforcement that was needed? Because, as they said, kulang ang info at hindi kumpleto, etc. Or did they hold back for other reasons?
I think they held back for the right reasons. There are protocols that the military follows before they engage. And from what I've been hearing, they were indeed following those protocols.
Yeah.
What we really lacked in was the proper coordination. We understand that there was no coordination with, of course, with the peace panel because we are not sure
Yeah.
about the leakage of information.
Yeah.
Probably even with the ground commanders of the AFP.
Oo.
But for lack of coordination at the higher levels where people are supposed to be at the higher level
Yeah.
of security clearance,
Yeah.
that's something that's really questionable.
You're talking about the uninformed, the out-of-loopers.
Yes, the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of Interior, the Chief
Yeah,
of the
General
PNP,
SP,
OIC of the PNP.
Oo. Well, whose fault
Kasi
is that?
pwede, well, yung dapat kasing nagbigay ng information, no, if the plan was hatched at the level of the SAF, because that's what the SAF Commander was saying, that he's
Yeah.
responsible for that. Then they could have still done coordination kasi pwede naman lang ginawa is to inform at least at the up to the level of General Katapang if they really don't trust anyone else. Units could have been placed on red alert without having to be informed of the details of the operation. Just so that in case there's something like this happens,
Yeah.
it's easier to mobilize troops.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Even as simple as the area where the SAF operators were
Yeah.
moving,
Oo.
that could have been shared at the higher level of authorities.
Okay, Rufy, who should be accountable for this?
Well, it would depend now on, well, at this point, the way I see it,
Yeah.
everything is falling on the shoulders of General Napeñas.
Is it really all his fault?
It's difficult to believe that everything happened just at his level.
Yeah.
He's a unit commander. They're higher ups. And even though there's an opinion that the principle of chain of command doesn't apply with the PNP, we all know that it does. Everyone in the PNP knows, recognizes, and practices the chain of command. So having a break in that loop gives us that question that was it really worth it
Okay.
to have a sacrifice of 44 staff men?
Yeah. Okay, so you had Alan Purisima resigning. What should he do next?
Well, I don't know if he has enough information that he could share with the people. Because if we all want, all of this should be justice for the 44.
Okay. Yeah.
I think all of the things
yeah.
that are happening now is supposed to give justice to these men who gave their lives for the country.
Yeah. But
Never mind
reason
the
why I
other
brought that
side
up-
issues.
Oh,
Yeah.
but the reason I brought it up, remember at the Senate hearing, you advise and not a command, no? And then you have the situation where you have the suspended and then now resigned chief PNP and the OIC chief PNP. So you have this parang two fulcrums of power, or for lack of a better word. And then you have President Aquino there, who is the appointing authority, who can, because while Alan Purisima is there, then there is no other man who can take his position, right?
Well, the next best thing for the PNP would be to have a permanent, leader appointed. So that would close the gaps in leadership, and accountability would be established.
Okay, final words, Rufy. Just summarize everything. What's our
Well,
takeaway
I'm,
here?
I'm going to comment on the video that you showed.
Yeah.
It shows the brutality of the enemy, but that brutality was brought on by war. They did not wake up one day and that morning just decide to shoot some people lying in a cornfield. They earned that brutality, or they got that brutality from living a war in their daily lives. So that video should really be a more compelling reason for us to push for peace. Because we don't know what kind of mindset these rebels have as they live their lives daily in the field. So let's give peace a chance to honor the 44. I would hesitate to call out war against these rebels just because of the video that we showed. Should be even in the reverse.
Thank you very much for joining us tonight, Rufy Biason.
Thank
Good
you.
to see you again. Thank you for watching, and see you again next Wednesday. I'm Pion Tiveros. Good night.